Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's Simon Rosenberg from Hopium Chronicles, and we've had a great week, and it's great to be here with all of you. The hardest working community of activists in the country, or one of them anyway. All of you, our community went all in for Tom Suozzi. I mean, we raised over $100,000. More than 2,000 of you contributed through the Hopium site. Many of you, hundreds, thousands of people. Um, Wrote postcards and canvassed and door knocked and texted and spread good cheer about Tom through your networks. And this was a big win. And we'll come back and talk about it in a little bit. But we have a lot to be happy about this week. We also, I just want to say, as I posted today, we're also seeing, I think at the same time, that we have a lot to celebrate. I think there is we're seeing MAGA is in full meltdown right now, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's get to it. Listen, here's my basic take on things and where things stand on February 15th, 9 months before the election, that, Joe Biden has been a good president. The country is better off. The Democratic Party is strong in winning elections all across the country. And they have Trump, the most unfit man to ever run for president in American history. And in every way possible, as we head into 2024, deeper into 2024, I would much rather be us than them. And so let's now, break that down a little bit. So number one, Joe Biden has been a good president. The country's better off. I think it's at this point now with all the, now we've had years of remarkable economic news, and particularly in the last few months. If you think about where we were in January of 2021 when Joe Biden became president, we had just had an insurrection. The Capitol was under military occupation, basically. COVID was raging. We still had the vaccines had not been distributed yet. The economy was in free fall and significant recession. And the world was in turmoil because COVID was still raging and there was enormous danger all around. And Joe Biden, the most experienced man to ever enter the White House, came in, and his central promise to us in 2021 was that he would get us to the other side of COVID. And he's done that. I mean, we've had the strongest the economic recovery from COVID of any advanced economy in the world. Since the beginning of COVID, our economy has grown twice as fast as the next major economy. It's part of new data came out today, pretty remarkable. We know that we have the best job market since the 1960s. We have real wage growth in the last few months have been some of the highest that it's ever been in modern American history. We have the lowest uninsured rate that there's ever recorded. Inflation, as we all know, has come way down, and is now prices of many things, including rents and some food, and interest rates are coming down, right? So things are improving. The stock market is breaking records. All three major indices have, broken records in the last few weeks. So if you've got a 401k and you need this for your retirement, you're having a good run in the last few months. And, we're living through right now, and I should say the deficit is trillions less than when Biden came to office. We're living through right now one of the best economic moments in modern American history, certainly potentially since the 1960s. Better than Reagan. The economy is far better today than it was under Trump. And this basic reality, what's happened to the American economy, the strength of it, is going to give Joe Biden a very powerful platform to run for re-election. And it's one of the central reasons that I'm so confident that we're going to prevail this year. Second is the Democratic Party is strong in winning elections all across the country. This is really sort of the core of a lot of the analysis we do here at Hopium. And I think that everyone knows that in 2018 and 2020, we had two great elections. We took away the presidency, the Senate, the House from the Republicans. And we defeated MAGA, right? We did it over two cycles. We took everything away from them. But usually what happens next is that when the party is in power, like we are now in the White House, the party out of power gains ground. They win in midterm elections, they pick up seats, they win off-year elections, but special elections, and the party kind of ebbs away from the party in power to the party out of power. And that hasn't happened since 2022. Something historically anomalous has happened. And we saw, and it's my view that since Dobbs in the spring of 2022, we've seen sort of one election, which is heightened Democratic performance, overperformance, Democrats winning across the country, outperforming expectations in public polling, and Republicans struggling. It's my view that something broke in the Republican Party with Dobbs, that, even for many Republican voters, this was just a bridge too far. It was too much. The Republican Party, as ugly as it was, had become even uglier. And and even Republicans were starting to balk at what was happening to their own party. And it's the central reason they've continued to struggle. They've had a hard time raising money. The RNC is broke. Their candidates aren't raising hard dollars, and they're continuing to lose elections all across the country. I mean, what's remarkable is that prior to this 2022 cycle, when you look at the general election results going back to 1992, I mean, we all know the Republican Party had a great run from 1968 to 1992. They won 5 out of 6 presidential elections, some of them by huge margins. But then things changed. When we won in 1992 with Bill Clinton, and I was part of that campaign, we've now won more votes in 7 out of 8 presidential elections. It's the best popular vote run of any party in American history. And in the last 4 elections, we've averaged 51%. They've averaged 46%. That's a plus 5-point margin of, where we've done better. And the last time we averaged 51% over 4 elections was during FDR's 4 elections of his presidency. So it's been a long time since we've been able to perform at this level of the popular vote in the national popular vote. And now we're complementing that with this extraordinary performance in these off-year and midterm and special elections. Since the spring of 2022, we had in the election itself in 2022, we gained ground over 2020 in Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Minnesota, Michigan, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania. We got to 59% in Colorado, 57% in Pennsylvania, 55% in Michigan, 54% in New Hampshire. We picked up a U.S. Senate seat. We picked up governorships. We picked up state legislative chambers. And yes, we lost the House just by a few seats, but the fact we kept it so close is causing the Republicans, that we essentially denied the Republicans ideological control of the House by keeping it so close. It was an incredibly important thing that we did in 2022. And so we defied expectations in 2022. It was a remarkable election for us. I mean, the admonition is that we fell back in a few places, right? The red wave, as Steve Kornacki said on TV the other night, did crash in New York and California and Florida and Texas. But in those places where we ran the big campaigns and we asked all of you to go to work in the battleground, we showed the power of this nascent grassroots at this point, where we outperformed expectations again and again and again. And then the question when I began Hopium just about a year ago was, would this basic overperformance and struggle, this basic frame of the election, continue into 2023? And it did. We flipped a Wisconsin Supreme Court seat, which is hopefully going to end the rancid gerrymandering that we've seen in Wisconsin. We got to 56% there in March of last year. We then flipped Colorado Springs and Jacksonville, Florida, 2 of the largest Republican-held cities in the country. We then got to 57% in that first August ballot initiative in Ohio, and then took away the 6-week abortion ban in Ohio in the general election. We flipped the Virginia State House, which nobody expected us to do, which took away this fantasy the Republicans had of the 15-week abortion ban being their escape hatch from the abortion extremism that they forced onto the country. And it also damaged Glenn Youngkin terribly in that election. We saw Andy Beshear grow his margin in Kentucky. We were able now to get a ballot initiative on in Florida. We gained seats in the New Jersey legislature. We won school board races and city council races and mayoral races all across the country. 2023 was a blue wave year. In 2022, the Republicans could point to a few places like Tom Suozzi's district and out in California to say, hey, we actually did okay. This wasn't such a bad election for us. They couldn't say that anywhere in 2023. We won everywhere. It was a remarkable performance by the Democratic Party. And then the question is, would this basic structure that I'm describing continue in 2024, right? Would it carry over? And so far it has. What we've seen is that Democrats have now had 2 elections where we took things away from them. We took away a critical state house seat in Florida with Tom Keene's race, which Hopium played a big role in January. And now we won this remarkable race with Tom Suozzi, taking a seat that we had lost just a year and a half ago by 8 points and winning it by 8 points this week. again, we're taking stuff away. We're growing and expanding our coalition. And look what the Republicans have done. In Iowa, they spent $100 million, very competitive race, lots of candidate time, debates. And what ended up happening in Iowa? They ended up having anemic turnout. Trump only got 56,000 votes out of 750,000 registered Republicans. 93% of the Republicans in the state did not vote for Donald Trump in the Iowa caucuses. And then that underperformance showed up in New Hampshire too. He ended up coming in at 10 to 15 points below all public polling. There had been many, many polls in New Hampshire. He came in only at 54%. He was over 60 in every poll that had come out in the final few weeks. And, we started seeing this weakness. And we saw also in polling in Iowa and New Hampshire that there is a big chunk of Republicans that can be loosened from Trump and the Republican Party that are concerned about his criminality, right? We've seen this 20, 30% of Republicans have said repeatedly they would consider not supporting Trump if he was convicted of a crime, which shows inherent weakness because he is a criminal and he's committed crimes, right? So it's a problem for him. And the second thing is we saw in Iowa this critical poll that showed that 43% of Haley voters would potentially flip and support Joe Biden in the general election over Trump. I can tell you, as having someone who's been doing this a long time, we've never seen polling data like that before. People so willing to support the other candidate in the other party so early in the presidential election. So what you're seeing in the Republicans in the voting, in the early voting, is this continued struggle. And now we've seen that the RNC is broke. We've seen that state parties, critical battleground state parties, are atrophying. We know that dozens and dozens of Republican leaders in these battleground states have been indicted, many more for trying to overturn an election, a serious matter, and many more are under investigation for similar election-related crimes. We saw the speaker, the new speaker, the cowardly boy speaker, completely melt down over the last few weeks. And he's now positioned his party as being pro-Putin, ending the Western alliance, chaos on the border, more immigrants into the country. And now, because what he's going to do potentially with the budget, crashing the American economy. And what they thought was going to happen, part of what happened the last few weeks for Republicans, which I think has been so damaging for them, is that all of their major indictments of Biden have evaporated, right? They said the economy was bad. The economy is really good. They said recession was killing us. Inflation's killing us. Now inflation's back to pre-pandemic levels and prices are falling. They said there was a crime wave in America. We now know that crime and violent crime is down all across the country, even in New York. And they also said we were waging a war on energy. And we saw in 2023 that we had the highest domestic production of both renewables and oil in American history. All of those were their central attacks on Biden, and all of them have evaporated. And in the last few weeks, what they hoped was they were going to be able to take this immigration, the border issue, and ride it to victory in the election. And then they blew that. Because now that they have gone from being the party that wanted to fix immigration, the border, to the party that's trying to keep the border chaotic and immigrants coming into the country. We're now the party that wants to fix immigration. Tom Suozzi ran on that. He was aggressive about that. It worked. And what the Republicans just saw, they hoped this chaos, Trump and his impulsivity and his extremism and his craziness, his madness, believed that somehow by coming out for keeping the border open, this was going to help them. And what they learned Tuesday night was that it's already costing them in the election. It was already something that was consequential. Trump believed this was going to help them, and he was wrong. This is going to hurt them because they look like they're trying to harm the country instead of solve problems, as Tom Suozzi said repeatedly throughout this election. And so, where we stand now is I think the Republicans have nothing to run on. I mean, all their major indictments of Biden, with the exception of him being old, which we can talk about, have evaporated. And so I think as we head into 2024, right now, I feel really good about where we are. We just keep winning elections all across the country. They keep struggling. Their central arguments, indictments of Biden have evaporated. They're running on an extremist and ridiculous agenda that will do enormous harm to the United States. I think we can beat these guys. I mean, I think that head to head, over the next few months, as we make our case and our campaign gets ramped up, right, we're going to be able to beat these guys. And then finally, let's talk about Trump, because Trump is a weaker candidate than he was in 2016 or 2020. He's first of all, he's campaigning from the courthouse and not the White House. He doesn't have the majesty of the White House to be able to put positive messages out there every day. He's got nothing to be able to put positive energy and stories out. He's spending all of his time defending himself, as he should be, because he's a serial criminal and he betrayed the country and justice, the wheels of justice are turning, as they should be, right? Second is that he's far more diminished than he was. He's far more dangerous and extreme than he was in 2020. We have since 2020. Okay, I'll come to that in a second. And then third is that his performance on the stump is far more erratic and far more disturbing than it was in 2020. He feels diminished, a little more mad, a little wilder than he was. He doesn't make as much sense as he used to. He's talking about crazy stuff all the time. Finally, he's also now making traditional political errors, the kind of things that cost candidates to lose elections all the time. He came out against the ACA. He's now coming out against NATO, right? These kinds of mistakes on issues are the kind of things that losing candidates make that can be used in traditional politics to push a candidate out of the center. And then I guess finally, here's my final point. There are 6 things that we're going to be able to share with the electorate in the coming months that are things that they didn't know about Donald Trump in 2020 when he lost, that I think are going to be really important. And let's go through those 6, because these are things we need to be talking about right now. We don't need to wait for any court decision. We have enough information about things, the facts on the ground, that we need to be sharing with people in our networks. First of all, he raped E. Jean Carroll in a department store dressing room. That's a fact. Second is that he and his family committed one of the largest financial frauds in American history, and we're going to get a financial judgment on that probably tomorrow. Third is that he led an insurrection against the United States. And he led an insurrection against the United States. He tried to end American democracy for all time, and he's now promised to finish the job if he gets in the White House. Fourth, he stole America's secrets, lied to the FBI about it, shared it with other people. Fifth, he and his family corruptly have taken more money from foreign governments than any family in American history. And sixth, he's singularly responsible for ending Roe and stripping away the rights and freedoms of more than half the population. Any one of those things could disqualify him and make it impossible for him to win. He's done all 6 of those things. I can tell you, as somebody who's been working in traditional politics for over 30 years, we have more ammunition to push this guy out of the mainstream and disqualify him than any campaign has ever had. And I'm very confident that this combination of Joe Biden's being a good president, making the country is better off today, and Trump's just historic awfulness, right, is going to allow us to continue to win as we've been winning and have a very good November. I'm confident that I feel very good about our chance of winning the presidential election. We should be able to flip the House. Tom was a good sign of that. And my hope is also, I think the Senate is going to be up for grabs in we're going to learn more about the Senate in coming days, but I think it's going to come down to election day. It's going to be very, very close. So listen, folks, we had a great 2018. We had a great 2020. We had a great 2022. We had a great 2023. 2024 starting off really in an encouraging fashion. And what we now know is that the Democratic Party is a good party. We've done good things for the American people. We continue to win elections. And what the Republicans shamefully are putting forward is the most unfit and dangerous candidate to ever run for president in American history. Shame on them for rallying behind this awful, terrible man and all the things that he's promised. And he becomes the evidence of his terribleness, his awfulness becomes clearer every day. And so when I add all that up as a strategist, as a chess player, right? Oh, here's our special guest. And let me unmute him. Tom, welcome. Congressman, I should say. Congressman-elect.
Hey, Simon, thank you so much. I really am just so grateful to you and your team. You guys are awesome. Yeah, go ahead. What did you want to say?
No, I just want to say, Tom, congratulations. Thank you so much. As you know, this community really rallied for you and went to work, and we're just so proud of you. You ran an incredible race and winning by 8 points. You're the king of the hill now, Tom, right? In Washington, you're going to be the belle of the ball in DC now.
This team, listen, you under-promised and over-delivered, and that rarely happens in life, certainly in politics. And, I mean, you raised over $100,000. You did, I don't know how many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of calls. Even the last day, we were freaking out about the snow. And, we sent out an all-call alert. And, you got people, hundreds of people to make phone calls, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on election day. So And that happened throughout the campaign. The campaign made 2.1 million phone calls, and your team was a central part of that. So I can't thank you enough. And we got to teach the rest of the Democrats throughout the country that they have to rely on the grassroots support of the people that really want to take our country back from those people that would want to divide it, and get us to start working together to solve problems and make people's lives better. And I just the effort of the people on this call is the most genuine, noble public service that we could ask for, because politics only works. The founders said this. Democracy will only work if the people are involved. And if the people are not involved, it's just controlled by the parties, and then everybody just wants to take care of their issues in the party. That's not going to work. We need the people involved. And this group that you've helped to rally is a manifestation of the truest form of democracy and people making it happen. So thank you so much.
Tom, we're so proud of you. Thank you. And I just think on behalf of everyone here tonight and anyone who's going to watch this, I can't tell you how important it was for you to acknowledge during your remarkable victory speech the other night, which I was on MSNBC watching with Lawrence O'Donnell, the acknowledge the work of the grassroots, the 2 million calls, the hundreds of thousands of postcards and texting and phone calling and canvassing till people's knuckles were worn, right? The fact that you did that and made that so important and central to everything you did meant a lot to tens of thousands of people all around the country who went to work for you. And I just want to say thank you for what you've done. We look forward to seeing what you can do in Congress. I know you're crazy busy, so thank you for taking time with being with us tonight. And good luck, Tom. We're really proud of you. We're glad to be on your team and not by your side, and we're going to keep fighting for you all the way.
That means the world to me, Simon. And you make my luck, and hard work makes the luck, and everybody doing it together makes the luck. And this is about the people, and on this call are the people. So let's take back our country and make it work for the people again. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, Tom. Well, that was fun. So let me just close. I mean, how do you follow that, right? But let me just close with just building on what he said and what we were talking about, the grassroots. So let me close with this sentiment. Why are we doing this? Why are we all here? Why did I begin Hopium? Why are we fighting so hard for our country? And as Tom mentioned, I think that this work, as I wrote today, is some of the highest form of patriotism that you possibly could imagine in a democracy. You're expressing your love of country and your belief in the future by all the work that we do together. But I just want to close with this. Sorry. I haven't slept very much last couple of days. I'm here to a great degree because of a speech that FDR gave in 1941. And in his State of the Union speech in 1941, FDR argued that he wanted to build a world based around freedom, the four freedoms as they came to be known, and that he wanted to take, in essence, the American theory of the case and the way that we've organized our society around freedom and opportunity and export that to the rest of the world and replace the world that existed at the time, which was being governed by power and authoritarianism and dominion, and switch that and flip it, that we wanted to build a post-World War era around freedom. And in essence was an exportation of the American ideal to the rest of the world. And those four freedoms became the foundation of the Atlantic Charter with Churchill that created the basic alliance that helped win the war. It became in the foundational charter of the United Nations. The four freedoms became the basis of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. They became the foundation on top of which the entire world has been built since the 1940s. And what's important to recognize is that during this time, over the last 80 years, those four freedoms and the vision of FDR and have created a golden age in human history. There's never been a better time to be alive in all of human history than during this period of the last 80 years. We've seen life expectancy go from 45 years to 71 years. We've seen extreme poverty plummet despite a huge explosion in population. We've seen more people being able to live in democracies than any time before. And there's just this basic idea of the ability of an average person to pursue their dreams wherever they live. There's more opportunities to do that today than there's ever been. We are living in a golden age in human history. And that golden age was created by us. by the Democratic Party, by the leaders of the Democratic Party back in the 1940s. And a lot of what we've done since then has been to fight, to maintain, to expand that global order so it can give opportunities for all the people of the world. And what's so important about this moment is that world that's created more opportunity for more people than any time in human history is under threat today. It's under threat by MAGA here in the United States and by authoritarian forces and autocrats around the world. And that's why we're all here, in my view, right? Is that we understand the gravity of the moment. We're Democrats. We have a lot to defend. This world and this opportunity that we've created is under siege. We were called once before in the 1940s, and our party rose to the challenge. And we not only defeated authoritarians and autocrats, but we built this world that created so much opportunity. And the reason we're all here, right, is that we know, as heirs of FDR, the children of FDR, that we know that we're part of the most noble political project in all of human history, something called the Democratic Party. And that we know that we are being called again the way that we were called before in the 1940s. And like in the 1940s, all of you are answering that call. We are rising to the challenge. We are doing the work that needs to be done to ensure that our freedoms and our democracy are there for our kids and our grandkids and all the people of the world. That's why we're here. That's why I started Hopium. That's why we do all the work. That's why we keep winning and kicking their ass all over the country, because we understand the stakes of this. And I can't tell you how inspired, proud, humbled I am to be in this fight with all of you. I get my energy from these gatherings that I do with all of you and the time that we spend together and to see the work that you do. And I think one of my favorite stories of the last couple of days, when I sent out this email at 6:30, the campaign reached out to me and said, we need more calls. We had a light turnout. We want a stronger turnout. And one of you, and I don't remember who it was, wrote back, hey, Simon, I'm with 12 other people sitting in a backyard in Los Angeles, and we've been making calls for Tom Suozzi all day. And I just think of this, here they were having the storm in New York, terrible weather, and there was a bunch of people wearing shorts and T-shirts in a backyard in Los Angeles somewhere, calling all day, working on turnout. That's the new party that we're building. What we're building together is the most powerful democratic machine that any of us have ever seen. We, because of the work we're doing, is we're taking races that should be a 1 or 2 point race and making them 4 or 5 points. We continue in race after race, particularly since Dobbs, to push the performance of the Democratic Party to the upper end of what's possible. We're doing that. And I'm so proud to be in this community with all of you. I'm humbled by it, inspired by it every day. And I recognize that for all the good that we've done here at Hopium and over the last couple of years, our most important job is still ahead of us. We have to win this election. Helping Joe Biden and Kamala Harris defeat Donald Trump is probably going to be the most important thing that any of us have ever done. And the key to me now is not just about winning in the fall, but trying to get to 55, to blow this out the way that Tom did, to beat expectations, to win the race by 8 to 10 points, which I think we can together if we do the work. And we need to make this election, as Tom did on Tuesday, a repudiation of this terrible MAGA politics. We can't stumble across the finish line. We can't win by a couple of points. We need to go big. We need to win big, because we need to make this election a clear repudiation of MAGA. The only way that MAGA is going to loosen its dark grip over the Republican Party is if Republicans decide that this is a losing politics. And it is a losing politics. MAGA lost in 2018, in 2020, in 2022, in 2023. It's losing in early 2024. We have a chance to do something historic, because I think what we all want is just to be able to have normal elections again, where we don't feel that if we stumble or fall, that we could lose our democracies and our freedoms for all time. We just want to go back to normal politics. The only way that's going to happen is if we crush MAGA in the fall. That's why we have to keep working so hard. This is all practice and run up to what we're going to have to do for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the 7 states that they're going to win with our help in a few months. So thank you, everybody. I'm so grateful for all of you. I can't tell you how gratifying and fulfilling this work is that we're doing together here at Hopium, and how lucky I feel that I'm able to do this work full time with all of you. Thanks, everybody.